Hey everyone, we're The Violet Reality. My name is Casey Rain.
And I am Camilia, and we are back with a brand new video. And this is going to be an interesting one because we are interested in what you have to say.
Yes, this one we're going to ask you to drop a comment as soon as you've watched this video and you've heard what we've said, because we want to know all about your first ever experience or your first ever time that you heard of Prince, and whether that's hearing his music, or if you heard of him before you heard his music, or anything. Just the earliest memory that you have where you became aware that Prince was a person that existed in this world.
You know what's going to be funny about that? It's like so many people are going to have so many different experiences, because people my age may have, like, you know, we have loads of access to like every single like thing that's out there of him. So like music videos, DVDs, like music on Spotify and whatnot. But then people in the 70s, 80s, 90s will have not have access to that, or you would have been around in a time where Prince was still like to release Purple Rain or like Controversy or anything like that. So it's going to be so interesting.
So I'm going to start and tell you my story, and this is a story that I've never told on camera before. Probably most fans that I've ever spoke to don't know this story. I may have talked about it online before, but I'm pretty sure that most of you watching this have probably never heard this story. And it's a little bit of an emotional story, so we're going to get into it. So the first thing that you need to know about my story is that my mom passed away when I was 5 years old of cancer, and so I did not, know my mom growing up. I don't really have any, memories of her, and so that's kind of like the sort of defining thing in my life of sort of coming to terms with, not having the same kind of like experience growing up as most people, and obviously has impacted my life in every possible way that you could probably think of. But the story here is that when I was a little kid, when I was very, very little, maybe around like 6 years old, 7 years old, I used to go to my cousin's house. My cousins are music producers, and I work with them on lots of music these days. And obviously they had a huge collection of vinyl and CDs. So in their living room, the vinyl was like in like a unit that was like closer to the ground, and then like the CDs were like above that. And so I used to like kind of go over there sometimes, and I'd stand there and I'd look through the vinyl and I'd look through the CDs, and like I was a huge Michael Jackson fan, Jackson's fan, so anything that was related to like Michael, like I would look for, or like Motown. Obviously I knew the label Motown, and that the Jacksons were a part of that, and blah 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 and all that stuff. So that would be the kind of stuff that I was looking for. And then I vividly remember very, very early at that age flicking through the CDs, and all of them kind of looking, like CDs, and same case, jewel cases, and blah, blah, blah. And then pulling out this one, which had a hologram on the front, and just being like, whoa, like, what is that? Now, this, of course, I'm referring to Diamonds and Pearls, which came out in 1991. Obviously, you all know Diamonds and Pearls. Classic Prince album, first album that's Prince in the new power generation. So like Rosie Gaines and Tony M and all these people. Classics on it, like the title track and Cream and Get Off, and I don't need to tell you what tracks are on Diamonds and Pearls, but you all know it. So now I bet you're wondering, how does that relate to what I was talking about earlier? Well, when I was a little bit older, I mentioned to my cousin that I had this early memory of being a kid and looking at the hologram cover and sort of being fascinated and turning it to try and like, look at the picture and whatnot. And then that's when he told me that actually my mom bought this for him on his 21st birthday. And this is that exact copy. He gave it to me after he told me that story. So like, I obviously did not know that my mom was a Prince fan or anything like that. And so that was just like a really, really cool moment that I found out that she's the one that bought this album for my cousin. And now I have it. So yeah, there you go. There's my story. That's the first time I remember looking at something and seeing the name Prince.
Oh.
Yeah.
So she kind of like brought you into like being a Prince fan in a way. That's really beautiful. Okay. So my story is super, 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 super upbeat and really, really happy because, well, I grew up in a tiny little town in Holland, and I think a lot of you know about that because I speak about it quite regularly. And
what? A tiny town?
What? You're not from England? Yes, no, I'm not from England, I'm from Holland. Hello. So, yeah, so I'm from a tiny town, and it was like always sort of this place where you got like judged for being who you wanted to be, and like you had to dress a certain way to sort of like fit in with the crowd rather than stand out. Thanks for the sound effects. I like how I was completely quiet when you were telling your story.
I'm trying to perk myself up.
And, oh. It's okay, so, yeah. Where was I? Thanks, guys. Now I don't know where I was. Okay, you know what though?
Tiny town.
Yeah, it's like
Tiny
so exciting
town.
though. Talking about the first time you like ever saw or like had like got anything that like had anything to do with Prince. Tiny town, loads of judgmental people around, and me really wanting to like be in Prince's fictional uptown, which is actually a real town that we've been to, but you all know that as well. So yeah, so I was about, I think I was like 4 or 5 years old, and there was always like around this time, this was like the early 2000s, so you still had like music channels playing quite a few video clips here and there, believe it or not. MTV also still sometimes played video clips in Holland, and you also had a channel called The Music Factory, so there was still music on TV. So yeah, so it was just like some random evening, and I was just watching TV, and then I think like either way my mom or my dad had like flicked to like the music channel, and then there were a few clips on, and then all of a sudden the video clip for Little Red Corvette came on TV, and I was like and I was like sitting there, and I was just like so fascinated by this man with this like gorgeous big curly hair and this super shiny coat, just like sliding across the stage. And I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. And so you can imagine, I was 5 years old or 4 years old, I can't quite remember when this was, but I didn't know what the lyrics were about, and it's probably a good thing that I didn't know. I just thought that it was like a catchy tune, and I was like shaking to it and whatnot. And ever since that moment, I've always been on like a quest to like discover more about this man. So when I then got a little bit older, I found a box of my mom's old vinyl in our attic, and I found Purple Rain, I think, and I found like some singles from Sign of the Times and some other stuff, and I was hooked, and I was like, I need to know more about this man. So around that, and then around that time, it was still like there were loads of Prince CDs in stores and whatnot, so I started to make it like my duty or like my mission to collect all of the CDs that I could find, and that's sort of how I discovered him. So because I was from such a small town, I had a way to like discover him by still buying CDs and like looking for vinyl of his, and like.
But at least you had the internet as well, and you could look for information.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, like,
I didn't have that.
No, that's
I didn't
true,
have that
guess.
in the 90s.
Yeah, but the thing for me was just, like, you know, because we still had, like, CD players, like those things where you have, like, a physical radio that you put a CD into. I still had that for ages, and I had that in my little room, and I would just play a Prince CD that I was allowed to listen to when I was younger, because I wasn't allowed to listen to all the dirty stuff. So we just put my CD in, listen to Prince the whole afternoon, and I had so much time to discover him growing up as well, and being a teenager, because I just had so much free time on my hands because there wasn't much else to do where I was from. So I was just like, I've spent so many days and so many nights just headphones on or earplugs in, plugged into either way my vinyl player, my CD player, or later on my iPod, and just listening to Prince, discovering him and discovering that there was a better, bigger world out there than what I was used to. So he's really brought me that. He's brought me like a wider outlook on life, and he's sort of made me like the person that still dares to dream in a way.
Yep. You just reminded me of another story. I saw Emancipation when it came out in the shops, and I was still pretty young at that time, and I didn't realise that was also Prince, because there was no picture of him on it, and like I didn't know that he had like changed his name to the symbol because I was still so young. And I remember just looking at it, I was like, first of all, I'd never seen like a 3 CD set before,
like,
so that was something new. And then second of all, I was like, who is this even by? It doesn't have a name or anything.
It's like, who is this thing? this like sort of like trumpet shaped, round shaped, sort of like male feet. Well, you didn't probably think that when you were a kid.
No.
Male female shaped. It's like, oh, it's like a drawing. Nice.
I just the main thing that I remember was just that I'd never seen a 3 CD set before, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then
like
later on, I found out that it was Prince. And,
Yeah. It's actually like right on that side. Like, look, it's like next to us, right there. You can see it. You should be able to still see it in the shot. But yeah. So actually, yeah. We really don't want to talk about the time I discovered Emancipation, because this will be a 3-hour-long video of me trying to explain to you why I love all of the songs on that album. So we'll save that for another day. But yeah, that's our first experiences with Prince.
So what we want to know is, what is your first experience or your earliest memory of Prince? What is the earliest time that you remember Prince seeing his name, reading his name, whether you heard his music before anything else, or whether you saw him or saw his name or saw something written about him before, anything else, or anything which we want to know, like your first Prince memory. And I think the really cool thing about this channel, and we know because we look at the statistics, is that we have people that watch it from like every age. So I bet like we're gonna have, you just know we're gonna have somebody in the comments and be like, well, in 1978 I heard Soft and Wet on the radio, and
we'll be like, so jealous.
Shout out to you, person, you were there the whole time.
Yeah.
And then equally, we'll probably have somebody watching that's like, oh, Artificial Age, that came out and I'm really, really young, and that was the first album that I heard.
That's really cool as well. Like,
so we've probably got both ends of the spectrum, like who are gonna be leaving us comments like that. So tell us your story and let's see what happens. We want to hear some awesome stories, folks. Drop them in the comments.
And then once we've received all of your lovely comments, we are planning on doing a live stream where we read out some of them and then we can discuss stuff all together.
Yeah, that's right. And that's it for this video. We're The Violet Reality. My name's Casey Rain.
I'm Kim Camilia.
We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Be wild. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I'm Anna Fantastic, and you're tuned in to The Violet Reality.